Hello everyone, and welcome to today's talk, How to Present Your Work with Sofia Nowakovska. My name is Aslak Høyestein. I'm the Managing Director of VISP. We are a arts organization situated in Norway, offering free membership to everyone who works within contemporary art, artists, curators, art critics, and so on. If you're not a member and you live in Norway, please sign up. It's free and it's only benefits, basically. Today we've invited Sofia Nowakovska from, she's situated in London, but she is from Warsaw, Poland. She's an independent curator, arts manager, and an art critic with a master's in curating contemporary art from the Royal College of Art. Should I go on, Sophie?
No, that's fine. Yeah, I can introduce myself. Yeah, hi everyone, and yeah, thank you so much, Aslak, for inviting me to talk today about how to present your work. So that's the first talk I will give today, and the next one, how to promote your work, will happen on the 20th. So I'm a curator, critic, and an artist manager, and I graduated BA Fine Arts at the Cambridge School of Art, and then I did my master's in curating contemporary art at the Royal College of Art in London. And I'm a full-time freelancer, and I work with a few artists as their manager on monthly basis, and I help them with reviewing their current situation, where they are in their practice and career, and then reflecting where they would like to go and what they would like to achieve in their artistic career. So my support includes writing about their practices and then editing texts, helping with applications, or sometimes just being over there to talk to. Sometimes when you're an artist, your like family situation or your health problems, sometimes they might get into a way. So I'm there to support them, but also if we are working with organization or preparing a show together, then I'm the one who's trying to adjust all of the planning to the situations that may arrange. So there is also, there is no singular path to the artistic development, but today I will guide you through some fundamental steps to put you on the right track. So we will discuss studio visits and then exhibiting in the gallery space, but also how to present where to present your work in alternative spaces. And then I will now share my screen.
Can I just add that if you're watching and have questions, you can write them in the chat on Zoom. Also, it's the recording of this talk, as it is being live streamed at the moment on YouTube as well. You can see the recording on our channel called Visp Kunst, forever and ever.
So as I said, we will discuss today how to present your work, and I will start with talking slightly about artist starter pack. So this is something that I prepare with the artists that I work with, so very often we start with preparing the biography and the statement, and then I will talk about the differences between the portfolio and then the catalog, and then I will discuss the importance of the websites and social media. But then also, at the beginning, I wanted to say that I know how difficult and stressful it might be, to be an artist and then to be a salesperson, a manager, content creator, a writer, and then very often there is a very limited amount of time that you can spend on actually making art. So all of the things that I will talk about today, they're important, but your mental and physical health are most important. So, all of these things will take you time, but, if you're not, in the right mindset, or might take you weeks or months to complete all of these things, but it's completely okay. So don't let stress impact your art and your practice. So we'll actually start with a few questions that I always send to the artists that I start working with. So very often I ask, what art you make, in terms of like what's the medium or the materials, the techniques. So like very often it's just good to have all of these things in one document, all of these questions and answers, just so that you can also come back to them after a while, and then they're a very good base for writing your bio and then the statement. So for example, what kind of art you make, so you can describe the medium, the materials, the techniques, and then your inspirations, your goals. So very often, like once I start working with artists, this is what we start with, and then we repeat coming to these questions once in a while. But then very often, as I said, later on, I will talk the next month, I will talk about how to promote yourself. But in the meantime, I think there is this strategy that helped me also a lot to think about how I want people to see me. And then very often that might be very helpful later on when you will be crafting your artist statements, deciding what kind of color palette you want to use for your website, or what to even post on your social media. So the idea is that you might come up with like 5 words that will describe, that will allow other people to get the feeling of who you are. And these words should reflect on your like artistic identity or your values, and then you can use them as a guidance for the decisions that you'll make later on while creating the website, social media, or portfolio. So we'll start with the biography, and then the differences between the biography and then the statement. So the purpose of it is to provide a concise overview of your career, including your background, achievements, and then also show you as an individual, rather than describing your passion, let's say. So, and the language is also very straightforward and informative. So here are the questions that you can answer in your statement. So where are you born and where are you based? So for example, Maria is a Spanish multidisciplinary artist who is currently based in London and UK. And what kind of medium do you use? Her work spans painting, sculpture, and installation, delving into themes of identity, memory, and intersection between personal and collective histories. So it's also okay to to include like just some information about what your work is about. And then where did you study? So she did her Bachelor of Fine Arts at the University of Slive in 2020. And then her masters and the Goldsmiths. And what kind of exhibitions were, and then what awards did you get, what grants, and then where did you, in what residences you participated. So she showed her work at the several notable exhibitions, the Whitechapel, and the Guggenheim Museum. And then she was awarded different prestigious awards. So this is just like a template to show what you can include. Of course, Some of your biographies might be longer or shorter. And then I always encourage to for the whole starter pack to have like a one folder somewhere on your Google Drive or on your laptop, and then just have one document for the biography with two, and I recommend to always have two lengths of for the biography and the statement. So one would be like 100 words and the second one would be 300 words. Just because these are like the most common lengths for when you're applying to for different opportunities. And it's completely okay if it takes you, like a few weeks or a few months. And yeah, as I said, you probably have, also other jobs. So yeah, like you'll be just also updating this text once in a while. And then the same like with me, sometimes it's just difficult to get track of how your life is changing. So for example, what I do is I very often edit my CV once every 3 months just to see, how I'm developing and what things are changing. And then with the statement, yeah, the purpose is to focus of explaining your work, but yeah, what are your inspirations and themes and processes and methodologies. So yeah, it's about you personally rather than what are your achievements and what is your career. And I'll come back to the international art English in a second. So I will now show the 2 examples. So this this statement I received from a student who just graduated master's degree. So yeah, my practice explores materiality, memory, and perception, questioning how histories and identities are shaped by visible and invisible forces. Through found objects, ephemeral gestures, and digital interventions, I investigate the tension between permanence and impermanence, presence and absence. My work engages with systems, ecological, social, and technological, disrupting dominant narratives and inviting reflection. By layering trace and interaction, I create open-ended spaces where meaning emerges through engagement rather than offering fixed conclusions. My work embraces ambiguity, and then implicity, fostering a deeper awareness of unseen networks that shape our collective and individual realities. And this one is, I received this, well, I slightly changed it, but it's a statement by an artist who never didn't attend any art schools. So as a ceramic artist based in Norway, my work is deeply inspired by the rigid landscapes, fjords, and ever-changing light of the north. I create organic hand-built vessels and sculptural forms that reflect the tension between nature's raw forces and human fragility. Using local sourced clay and experimental firing techniques, I seek to capture the erosion, degradation, and resilience found in the natural world. My pieces are both functional and artistic, embodying the harmony between tradition and innovation. From my work, I celebrate the beauty and power of Norway's landscape, honoring the deep connection between nature and craft. So, I always have a problem with, the international art English. So, it's this complex and very abstract language that can sometimes make it difficult to understand, what the artist is talking about if they're not familiar with this kind of language. And it's a way of communicating about art that is very often, very sophisticated and intellectual and very often detached from the everyday language. However, I'm not saying that this language is not good for any type of art. Very often it's used by the galleries or museums. And also this is how very often, people are expected to write in art. But, to me, a person who writes and reads a lot about art, I very often struggle to understand what this art is about. However, as I said, if your work is, for example, research-based, or if it's dedicated to a very specific audience, it's completely okay to use this kind of language. There was actually one artist that I was working with, and we're applying for an open call, and there was the organization asked us to describe the artist in 10 words. And she was thinking a lot about what to write, and then she came up with the statement, "I'm a broken microwave," and it just felt actually perfect for her. But it was because I knew her, and I understood, I think, what her work was about. But I would always recommend, well, if you think that this sophisticated language or very poetic one is necessary for your work, then I would always recommend having two statements that you can just very easily send it to a curator or someone who will ask you for an easier to understand text about your work. And then always, very often, like even I struggle to sometimes write about my practice, and practice always changes, and it's not a static thing, it's very fluid. So I very often just put mine on the fridge, and then like I read it every day, and then I look at it for months and weeks, and then I edit it once in a while. Just having it in front of you might help you reflect on it more often. And like very often you just have a conversation with someone, or you read a book, and then perhaps the next day your current statement will not be as accurate as it was yesterday. So having it always somewhere visible might be helpful to edit it in the future. So then now I'll talk about the differences between a portfolio and the catalog, but bear in mind that I'm talking over here. I'm talking about how I work with my artists and what I am preparing with them for this starter pack, so that it's easier for us to know what exactly we're going to send to specific people. So the portfolio, I ask artists to we prepare a document of 10 to 20 pages, and it provides an overview of their work and then the career. So definitely, like the high quality images of selected artworks. Very often you don't actually need to put everything from your whole artistic career. You want the person who's going to look at your portfolio, you want them to get the feeling of what your work is about straight away. So perhaps start with your strongest works or the newest ones. And then it can be organized by series or chronologically. And then in the portfolio, I very often ask artists to also include artworks within the space, because very often as a curator, I might be asked by a gallery to organize a show within like 4 weeks, and perhaps I've never seen the artwork in my life, but I might just need to understand the scale of it to include in the exhibition. So it's always good to have photos of your works within the space, even if it's in your studio. And then also the snapshots of the exhibitions. And then also always text about the artworks and the series, because I had a few situations when I absolutely loved the how the artwork looked like, but then it turns out to be about something completely different than I expected, and it just felt like you know, this kind of communication could be you know, like we didn't have to have this conversation with the artist about, you know, their work. I could just, you know, find everything in their portfolio if they actually had, you know, just like even 2 or 3 sentences about their works. And then, yeah, of course, the artist statement and then the biography. We can also include the CV, yeah, with your exhibitions and awards, and then the education, and then different links to the interviews or press, and then, yeah, contact information. So for the catalog in the press pack that I prepare with my artist, I just use it for to present what works are available. However, you know, like for example, when the gallery is preparing a catalog for the exhibition, it might be a very different thing. You know, perhaps it's actually a mixture between the portfolio that I just described and the catalog of the available works or the works that were included in the exhibition. That being said, you know, every artist approached this topic, you know, differently. Sometimes when I ask artists to send me a catalog, they send me something that is more that looks more like a portfolio that I just described. And then I think, you know, coming back to these few words that you might choose, you know, like how you would like people to look at your work. I really enjoy, you know, having that in mind when I go through artist portfolios. So for example, with Anna, I can see that, you know, like she's very professional, she's minimalistic, and then you know, I can see that, you know, the colors that she uses in her art are also something that she thinks about in how she presents herself in her portfolio. So they're like quite minimalistic, but also a lot of dark colors. And then Leon, for example, yeah, when I asked for his portfolio, he also decided to include over the prices of his works. But there is a lot of yeah, a lot of performance and a lot of sculptures. But he also, yeah, included a quite long text about you know, the backstory of his practice, which was also very useful for me to understand you know, like how we are going to work together. But then, for example, yeah, Alex, again, yeah, I asked her for the portfolio, and she decided to separate you know, the images of her works and then the details, and then have the price list at the end. And with Gabby, this portfolio was specifically designed when she was just graduating from her also MA at the Royal College of Art, and so she makes ceramics, but they're very connected to the research. So she makes yeah, her works are about you know, like, yeah, plastic pollution in the ocean. So you can really see how she, like in her portfolio, how she wrote about her research and her inspirations. And because of that, it was very clear to me than what I was looking at when I went to see her works. So yeah, so again, like everyone has different approaches, but for the starter pack that I prepare with my artist, I just try to separate the prices from the whole you know, like the statement, bio, and the artworks. Just because I feel like not everyone needs to know the prices, because also very often the prices might vary depending on the client that might be interested in your work. Yes, so with the website, I recently participated in a different seminar, and I was asked whether I think that the artist should have a website. And I was quite surprised that I still received this this question. However, I remember when I was studying BA Fine Arts, my tutors were like, oh yeah, you should have it, but no, they didn't actually teach me anything about it. So it's still quite visible how even in the education, it's not something that the education is saying that it's something that you must have, but from my experience as a curator, you actually do, because as I said, sometimes I'm being approached by a gallery or an organization, and then I have a very limited amount of time to to find the information. So like sending the message to the artist and then waiting for the answer, sometimes that takes a very long time. Or for example, when I am preparing project proposals and I'm not really sure whether it's going to happen or not, I'm not going to contact the artist straight away, because I don't want to also promise things that may not happen. So having a very dedicated space where I can find information very easily, that's just something the artist need to have. But at the same time, I know that they take a very long time, but for a curator, very often they don't have to be perfect. They just need to have essential information. So again, each artist have different approach. So for example, so I believe the most important things are like having the page with your works, then about, and then the contact. So for example, with Catherine, she also decided to have a catalog. So sometimes artists feel like having the prices next to their works might not be very comfortable for them. So she decided to have the page catalog separately, where you can just download it. But there are also some artists who just decide to put like a link at the bottom of the page with their artworks, so that it's still separated, but it's just accessible for people, so they also don't feel intimidated by just messaging the artist. So for example, with Dora, sometimes the presenting your work chronologically, it's not really. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just have a question, because you said that you personally you update your CV like every third month. But how often should an artist update their portfolio, their physical portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in every practice there are different moments. Sometimes you actually need a lot of time, perhaps to only research, or you might be like producing a lot of works all the time. So I think it really depends by like who you are and what you're actually doing, because sometimes I know that it might feel like you should be producing a lot of works, but sometimes just having this quiet time, this is also just a part of the practice. But yeah, I think I would say, yeah, like once every 3 or 4 months, just take a look at it and then see like whether you actually want or can add something, or perhaps sometimes also your relationship with different artworks change. Sometimes you don't like specific artwork anymore, or you feel like you actually want to add to it, so perhaps actually deleting some artworks might feel like a refreshment for your portfolio.
Because your portfolio should be like kind of a snapshot of where you are at this moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that also it's very similar to the to the to the statement. Yeah, your practice is changing all the time, so so it's normal that. Plus, also, as I said, even as a curator, I very often don't know when the opportunity will arise. So I think it's exactly the same with the artist. You should just be mindful that perhaps someone will contact you actually, and then they'll ask you, hey, I need your portfolio tomorrow or today. So
Yeah.
it's just important to have things updated as often as is possible.
And I just add also that some artists just have too many works on their websites. I don't know if you agree, but you kind of drown in them, the number of works.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's sometimes also good to ask someone, you know, what they. I know that it's quite difficult to sometimes also hear that some of your works might not be as strong as the other ones, but um, yeah, plus, as I said, because your practice changes very often, sometimes now the works that were made 10 years ago might not be as valid to your current practice as they were back then. And perhaps also the quality of them would be different. So you also don't want to show, you know, like perhaps the works that are not as strong right now. And yeah, you know, like sometimes less is better. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries. So yeah, so for example, with Dora, it just didn't really make sense to separate them by years, but by mediums. So yeah, so within the project, we just put the sculpture, installation, painting, performance, and photography. And I know that a lot of artists they feel, you know, reluctant when they have so many different, you know, things happening in their practice, but it's completely normal to yeah, like when one medium is changing into another, or where you have a lot of different mediums in one artwork. Um, so for example, with Pat, I just find it. I mean, I absolutely love his page with sketchbooks. So this is how he started from drawings and sketchbooks, and then he started making murals, and then also the photography actually became part of the practice that he was showing. So it's yeah, so that's a very important part of his practice. So it's completely okay to also include yeah, sketches or sometimes even works in progress if they are, you know, like a ongoing project for like years and years. And then even yeah, archive, that's also completely fine to include if you feel like it's a valid, it's a thing that you really want to show to others. But also when you're a conceptual artist, sometimes having a typical you know with the website with images, it doesn't might not work for you. And then I can see that more and more artists they are including yeah, using for example newsletter as part of their ongoing portfolio, or the Substack as well. I actually not I don't know if in Norway it's also quite popular right now, the Substack, or not really. Okay. It's becoming, I think, in England, because very often the research or your thoughts might also be a very big part of your practice. So yes, so Harriet, she's a performance artist, but a lot of things are happening online and then on her Instagram and on her newsletter. So I think it's just good to take a look at how different artists are approaching the idea of an online website portfolio. Um, so so this artist, he's also conceptual, and then the act of selling is part of his practice. But yeah, I just find it quite interesting how, you know, some artworks are like very minimal, how some websites are very minimalistic and focused on just like one artwork, and some of the artists are like, you know, just putting everything and selling their work, but it really reflects who they are and what they do. Mm. And then yeah, and then the social media, and again, like everyone's approach is very different, and you know, it's comparing to the to website. I would say that it's a space for people to actually discover you. You know, I don't think that a lot of people are you know, typing in Google abstract painter, because then you will end up with so many of them, and perhaps you wouldn't even know what to look at. But you know, on social media, it's just very easy to discover artists. But again, like everyone has a different approach, and you know, some might feel comfortable with sharing more, or or less. And then, you know, sometimes you don't want to show your technique, or sometimes you as a person, you might be an integral part of your work. So perhaps you're showing how you paint might be a good fit for you. So again, yeah, like there is no one way of there is no right way of running your social media. I would go back again to, you know, these 5 words that you might like to you know, choose and to show people who you are. So for example, with Daniel, he uses his Instagram almost as his website, so, you know, like a very clean aesthetic, almost only finished pieces, perhaps photos of him in his studio, and then the exhibition shots, and that's almost all he posts. He doesn't post a lot of personal things. So this is what really works for him and for the aesthetics of his work. But for example, Leah, she's her works, you like when you're experiencing them in real life, there is a lot of texture, there is a lot of personality, there is a lot of stories behind it. So on her website, on her social media, she very often talks about the books that she reads, the research that she's doing, you know, showing how her life is part of her work. So she works with natural dyes and natural wool, and she uses different like senses in her work. So yeah, the touch or the smell. So her work, her Instagram is quite personal, but like she doesn't overstep you know, the boundary between being professional. And I think this is what you should reflect when you actually decide to show a lot of personal sides. Perhaps like don't post you know, pictures of you clubbing, or like being drunk, or like, you know, your manicure. Perhaps this is not the space for it. But, you know, like people get connected to your art for different reasons. Perhaps it's not only aesthetics, you know, as Daniel is mostly focusing on. Perhaps it is you, you know, like who you are as a person. Perhaps, you know, a very loving, a very creative. Perhaps the research is a part of is the part that people really are interested in. So yeah, so I would say that, you know, Instagram, or depending on like what kind of social media you're going to choose, but because Instagram is, I would say, like, you know, the most important social media currently used in the art world. So yeah, so it should like reflect your work as well. So Natalia Janua, she uses this as a collage, I would say. So there are snapshots from her exhibitions, but also there are parts that you know, she might be inspired by, as like the elements that she saw when she was traveling, or different collages. So but you do get a sense of what her art is. And I would say it's quite weird, and there are a lot of like small elements when you like you have to come very close to discover her whole work. So it really it does fit her work, even though some of the things might be just slightly weird. And then Jeremy, for example, his Instagram is almost, it's a portfolio slash an artwork in itself. So for example, all of the descriptions in his posts are like, it's a, as he says over here, it's a correspondence with Mark Zuckerberg. So when he started using Instagram, he just felt like, you know, there wasn't like any response from the other side. You know, he felt like he was just, you know, writing descriptions, and it just wasn't working for him. So he thought that actually, yeah, I'm going to have a conversation with Mark, also because a lot of his works are quite political. So yeah, so the Instagram is almost as an artwork in itself. So I would say that yeah, that this part, like, it concludes the idea of the starter pack. So yeah, you know, like, I always recommend the artists to have a separate folder with yeah, the bio, the statement, with two lengths of these documents. So yeah, like 100 words for the bio, yeah, 100 words and 300 words for the bio, and the same with the statement. And if you feel that the sophisticated language is something that is necessary for your practice, I would always recommend having two different versions of your statement. And also, yeah, the CV, the portfolio, the catalog, and then always, yeah, have your social media and website ready. And I know that it is very demanding. So, like, about social media, I will talk more next week in the talk about how to promote your work. Yeah, so now we'll talk about yeah, studio visits. You know, like, I mean, there are different reasons for why people you know, might visit artist studio, whether that's because they're interested in buying their work, or because they are thinking about perhaps collaborating together. But you know, very often you as a curator, sometimes I might visit an artist who I'm interested in, but I may not know straight away how we might work together, or if we are going to work together. But you know, just having like even a personal conversation with the artist might give me a better idea of who they are and how they work. Because you know, when I read artist statements or bios, that's, you know, an edited text, and sometimes, you know, it loses the feelings and the human touch, I guess. Yeah, so once you know that someone is going to visit your studio, then definitely learn about who that person is. You know, sometimes it may be difficult to find out what kind of art the collector collects, but if that's a curator or a gallery owner, then you can definitely, you know, like take a look online and see what they're interested in. And then, yeah, organize your space. So, you know, like, some artists prefer to like, yeah, like, show their work that is still in process. Some like to show yeah, what you know, only the final pieces. So I would say, yeah, like, you know, take some time to organize the space also, so that it's safe for the people who are coming to your space to actually be over there. Because I had some situations where yeah, chemicals were like all over the place, so it wasn't a very like safe environment, I would say. And yeah, and then also, if you know, for example, that within a month someone will visit you, perhaps you can send them even an email, like, I don't know, a week or two before, saying, hey, thank you so much for your interest in coming to my studio once again, like, here the updated statement, bio, website, and everything, so that they can also read about you and they don't have to look for it themselves. Yeah, so yeah, doing, of course, like, you know, welcome warmly, and then, yeah, you can talk about your current work, your ideas, your future projects and inspirations. But then also, I mean, I know this always, you know, like, quite it might be quite stressful, but yeah, I think just be open to questions, even if you just don't know the answer just yet. I think it's completely fine to say that you're still thinking about something, or that you just don't know, and perhaps, you know, the studio visit might be the space to actually have a conversation or ask this other person for their opinion. But then also, yeah, be mindful of their time. You know, I absolutely love visiting artists, but living in London, it's a massive city, and you know, it just takes time to actually, you know, prepare for the studio visit, go over there, you know, yeah, talk to the person, and then go back, and then very often reflect once again. So I always feel very grateful when, you know, I also know that the artist is spending a lot of time preparing for it. But yeah, sometimes you just have to know that perhaps an hour or two, that should be, that should be enough. Um, and I'll just quickly show over here, yeah, what also would be great to do is, like when the person comes, like ask whether they would like to perhaps have something to drink, and then, they can also show them straight away, like, yeah, where is the restroom, and then, yeah, offer them a space to sit. Like my one of my favorite studio visits when I was just chilling with the artist on the beanbags. It was like a very relaxing, time. But I also know that there are also other galleries or curators who might not be as relaxed. But yeah, it's always very important that perhaps both of you have a space to sit so that there is no like so that you're equal, I guess. And then yeah, it was like also super nice when some artists were like, yeah, preparing snacks for me because they knew that I was like running around the city this whole day. And then also like during this winter, one artist gave me a hot water bottle because it was freezing at her studio, so that was like a very like a very nice touch. And yeah, it was actually very useful to have it. And then also, like some of them, they gave me like a small drawing or something, as a thank you for my time. But like, you're not expected to give anything, to these people, like, drawings or anything. It's just something that, people might appreciate it. Um, and then yeah, and then once the meeting is done, you can definitely send them a message or an email saying thank you so much for your time and for coming. And then I'm pretty sure that if they actually visited your studio, they will be very happy to hear again from you. Like you can just update them with your portfolio once in a while, and then you invite them to your exhibitions. And this is very often what I really appreciate when it's just very easy to lose things in on social media, or I just don't see someone's post just because the algorithm is not showing me. So I really appreciate when artists are sending me their updated portfolio once every, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. So perhaps this is something that you might consider. Yeah, like reviewing your portfolio once every few months and then sending it to people who might be interested in your work. Um, I don't know whether we actually want to have a break now, because now we'll be talking about exhibitions.
Sure. Shall we have a like what do you suggest? 7 minute break?
Yeah, 7 minutes. That's yeah, great.
So we'll start 5 minutes to 3, okay?
Yes, yeah,
See you
perfect.
then.
Okay.
Cool. Um, there's a couple of questions that I can answer that are here. Yes, you can watch the recording of this talk on our YouTube channel Visp Kunst. It should be under either live or in Norwegian Directe. That's where the talk will be preserved. Another message, what is the time frame for today and next week? We'll be finishing at in Norwegian time at 3:30, so we have about 35 minutes left, and same next week.
I will try to be as quick as possible.
I'm sure people will, don't want you to leave anyway. Can I just say what you said about studio visits, that I'm not sure how it works in the UK, but in Norway it's quite popular, these open studio weekends in Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, and Trondheim, the main cities. And the issue there sometimes is that it's both kind of professional attendees and how should I put it, the average Joe. So it's kind of a mix of who shows up, and that can be a bit of a challenge, I think, for some artists.
Yeah. There are also especially in London, there are quite a few organizations that are supporting artists with studios, and once every few months they're open studios. And as you said, sometimes you very often don't know who might actually come with the open studio, so perhaps sometimes they're critics or curators, or perhaps just people who live locally and might be interested in learning about your art. So I mean, I do understand that they might be slightly overwhelming, but I think everything comes with the practice. Like the more often you also talk about your work, the more you might feel more confident with it. So I would say challenging yourself, I think it's always good.
Definitely. Yes, thanks. Okay, moving on. Are you ready for part 2? Good, thank you.
So now going to exhibitions, and I'm presenting in a professional setting. Let's start with solo shows. I think there always comes a time with the artists in the artist practice when you think that you should have a solo show, whether that's after you graduate or after 10 years of your practice. But I would always encourage to wait until you're ready, or don't do it by yourself. Or if you actually feel ready that you want to put up your solo show, perhaps invite a curator to do it with you, just so that it also looks more professional. And perhaps a curator might be able to create a narrative around your work. I mean, it's great if you would get a solo show at the gallery. That's great. But I would say waiting until you're ready. Just listen to your to your guts. Also because it might be very very challenging. Sometimes you might end up with a massive space, and it might be quite overwhelming. So it will also take you a quite long time to build enough works. But it's great for the recognition, and inviting people who might be interested in buying your work. It's like a celebration of how far you were in your practice. But before the solo show, you will definitely take part in a lot of group shows. And I would say, so when I started working with artists, very often we apply for different open calls if this is what the artist is interested in. But very often we also have a think about where the artist wants to be positioned. So for example, So coming back to, like these 5 words that might describe your art. Let's say that you're interested in feminism, so perhaps thinking about what are other artists in your even like area in your community who are addressing the same things, and then showing your work within this setting. This is what might help position yourself within a specific community. But also I would say when you are organizing a group show by yourself, I mean, I would say that at some point you have to become quite selfish in terms of not only thinking about supporting your friends, but thinking about where you want to be with your work in the next few years. So yeah, deciding sometimes saying no to group shows might be actually a way to go. Like reflect who other artists are, whether you think that perhaps the quality of their work would be the same or not. And also, so I'll talk about like marketing next week more. But also it takes a long time, even with the group shows, to actually create something something that would be high quality. So I would be at certain point in your career, I would be just very mindful with who you're presenting your work. And now we're going to talk about like some more specific things. So yeah, like have a think about whether this exhibition actually gives you something more than just nice photos. Whether it will help you to make new contacts, or it will position you with a higher artist. And then when choosing a location for your event, make sure it aligns with your objectives. And if you're invited to exhibit, then take a look at the space before the installation day. Just because like sometimes when you see the space, when you see the lights, perhaps you might think that, oh, actually this artwork will not work over there, or perhaps you might have an idea for a more site-specific artwork. So I would like, if there is a chance, I would always recommend seeing the space before. And then so for example, like in my opinion, the White Cube space is not always the best idea. You actually art should make people feel something or think about like new things, or approach ideas in new ways. So think about whether, for example, you can add something new to the local community. And then I would say also, I will talk about an exhibition that I recently opened, but sometimes when you work in spaces that might not be traditional, so like outside the White Cube spaces, perhaps the local community might not be as familiar with like seeing work. So I always recommend writing on the wall or on the window that everyone's welcome, if you want to make your art like accessible to people. Consider how an artwork will appear in photos when choosing a placement. So from my experience as a curator, also I was invited to put up shows in different spaces, and I felt that I actually perhaps invited too many of them, or for example the organization was telling me that I should work with a specific artist, but I just felt that the space wasn't great. So for example, there was a wall next to the toilet sign, and it just didn't look great. So I would just be, just don't put works in the spaces just because there is an empty wall. Like people will actually come and, you know, see the surroundings as well. But then also that might be actually something good for the documentation of your work. Always take photos of the work in different times of the day, because also the light will change, and then also take photos on your camera and then also on your phone. Or you might actually also, if you're going to post you know, on your stories on Instagram, for example, actually take a photo with the Instagram camera, because also the quality is slightly different. So yeah, so take photographs in different times of the day, and then take them different devices. Yeah, and sometimes less is more. And yeah, sometimes you might think that, you know, like putting more works will allow people to, you know, see more. But actually it was quite interesting. I saw this piece in one of the London's galleries, and I actually didn't really enjoy the exhibition, and I'm not like a massive fan of this artwork, but like it doesn't really matter, you know, like it was just a small artwork on this massive wall, and you know, you just had to come closer to it. So like the closer you came, the more interested you were in actually seeing the work, and it was just tiny. So you know, yeah, the presentation of this work, it was just very effective, and it made me, you know, like look even more into the artist, because I actually wanted to see more of her works. And yeah, the space is a black canvas, so don't think that you know, like just putting your painting or an artwork in a space, that's no, that's it. You can actually change the space, you can add to it or remove some things. So yeah, the 17 galleries, it's also based in London, but there are a lot of galleries that do the same things. But basically it is a white cube space. But every time they put on a show, they build something, or even if they, you know, just paint a wall, there's always you know, it always adds something to it. So yeah, so Patrick presented his work. Well, it was a film about a lady going with her dog to a zoo and then having quite like political conversations with the dog. It was quite weird, but basically, but when you entered, you could actually smell the, you know, the straws, and then, you know, the sand. It was just it was as if you were actually in a zoo. So, you know, just the experience of a film, it was just something completely different. And you know, I think that with the artworks that, you know, very often we just look at on a screen, on a wall, I think that you can always create an atmosphere around it. And this is also something that I was trying to achieve with my recent work. So in my passion projects, I don't often work with painters, because I really like when you can experience art in different ways. And I really like to support artists who whose work might not be as commercial, or who might have less opportunities to exhibit just because of the medium that they use. You know, like people who make massive installations or who make conceptual, you know, art. There aren't, you know, that many well, as many curators who would be interested in this kind of art, because it's way more demanding. But I started working with these ladies, Marcelina, Anna, and Carolina, about the idea of a keepsake. So we are all from Eastern European countries, and we just all got to the point in our lives where we just became super nostalgic about you know, like our roots. And they're all painters, and like there were some embroidery pieces as well, but I got this space, and yeah, it's a very typical white cube space, and you know, to some it might be quite intimidating, But because the topics that these artists were addressing, they were very personal, and some of them were quite difficult in terms of their relationships with their mothers, or feeling, for example, guilty with how they're treating their inner child. So, and because I knew these artists personally, and I felt very connected to the themes that they were addressing, and I wanted to personally create this kind of like safe bubble around them. But I also really wanted to translate the same care to the viewers. So this is why I felt like, just having these small elements that would make people feel welcome to this, just perfect white cube space, just having flowers or having tea, having some biscuits. Also because it was quite far away from the city center. So I knew that people would actually come over there specifically to see this show. So it meant that they will actually spend a lot of time over there, and it was raining this whole week, so it was important to me to make people feel welcome over there. So yeah, like having tea, biscuits, but also having a blanket on the seat, and then also like plastic sheets for the exhibition text. Like there were just like these small elements that I really wanted to make people feel welcome and feel appreciated for their time. But it was also very important to me to be over there this whole time, so that I could have a conversation with these people, because yeah, like even with this show, it was like in the area there were a lot of families living nearby, and quite a few people came and they asked, oh, so like, is this show for everyone? Is it free? So I realized that like, even though I always think about the accessibility and inclusivity in the art, but I just forgot that there are still some people who might feel reluctant. So so yeah, definitely having like even a small sign like everyone's welcome, that might also break this kind of barrier. And this is like super important, ensuring the consistency in the presentation of all written materials, such as text, labels, posters, QR codes, leaflets, like using the same fonts and graphics. This is also branding. I really don't like this word, especially when I'm talking about art, but people like even with the contemporary art, very often it's difficult to understand what it is about, but you can get it. It's like a feeling that you might, that you might get what this art is talking about. So this is also why, there aren't photos of this artist, but basically one of the artists, she uses a specific font in her, in her paintings. So yeah, so I asked her to design our exhibition text, and on the left hand, and then on the right side, there is the floor plan. And because I'm not a massive fan of using the international art English, so using very sophisticated language, I don't think that it is accessible to the audience that I want to work with. So and because every artist, they were addressing very personal topics, I didn't feel that I wanted to write like a long essay about how these artists are connected. So I just asked I only asked Anna to prepare this exhibition text, which just explained who the keepsaker is. And then on the floor plan, I just wrote like wherever the artists were located. I just wrote a few sentences about what they were addressing. But just because, when I can't be at the exhibition, I just ask people, like just feel free to take a look at the exhibition, and then I can just tell you more if you want to learn about the space. So so personally, I would say that yeah, not having a long text, but just being over there in the space as this exhibition text might work way better. So yeah, consistency in all of the designs. And I work with so many artists who, when I said that, oh, we are going to have QR codes, they were just sending me their own, and like every design was super different. So it's just it's good to have like everything exactly the same. It just looks professional. And yeah, you are your work. So yeah, so talk about it. um like we are talking today about presenting your work, but it's not only about yeah, like putting together the document, or only putting your work in the exhibition space. It's also about yeah, like just communicating with people, I think, about your work. It will also help you, I think, understand it better. And especially when you're at the exhibition, I always engage artists to be over there, also because you can hear the feedback from people, and you just become more and more um comfortable with talking about your art. And very often people do feel connected to your works because they know you, they can feel your emotions. So whenever you have no opportunity to give an artist talk, I strongly recommend participating in it. You can also just record it and then put it on your website. That might be also a good idea, to have it over there as a supporting document. And then yeah, presenting your work outside the gallery system. So yeah, like I know that this is also why I'm not a huge fan of White Cube spaces, because a lot of artists' work may not be suitable for it, or perhaps they might need something more. It's the same with social media and with the Instagram. Like sometimes it's just very difficult to put yeah, like conceptual artwork in just one post. And yeah, your work, it does not have to exist in White Cube space. There are different ways. Sometimes teaching people, that might be also a way of showing your work and like showing your skills. Giving talks, or for example participating in creeds. There, you can also just organize your own creeds groups. You can invite your friends, or you can invite curators, and I'm pretty sure that people will be happy to come and see your work. And then the same with murals. So like it doesn't mean that even if you're not a painter, like sometimes applying for commissions, or like talking to other people about how your work might extend uh, beyond your normal form, might be actually a good way to show like local community what you're doing. And the same with the public art. So these two are probably like on a bigger scale, but there are a lot of open goals that do offer this kind of opportunities. And like perhaps yeah, like spending some time to actually even preparing project proposals and then sending them to organizations that might actually work. And then charity auctions, that's it is also a way of showing that your works can be for sale, even if you don't want to say it straight away on your website or on your social media. Like showing that you also support different initiatives. That might be a way. And then publications, there's a very long tradition of not only artist books, but also small magazines, so zines, with your work. That might be actually a way of even distributing your work. Or you can actually even have the small zine or small publication at your exhibition, so that even people can just take it home or they can buy it. And then with the art fairs, that's like slightly more complicated, but there are also art fairs for which you can apply as an artist. So you can just have your own booth and then present your work to other people. And then with the performance, I think that you can always be very creative, even if you're a traditional painter or you just make drawings. You can, organize a pop-up session in the park, when people can join you or like look at you how you're painting. And this is also a way of showing your work perhaps to a broader audience, which might not be perhaps which you never actually thought that exists. And then with the open calls, like I'm not going to talk about it too much. Actually, I'm just finishing. So, but with the open calls, I know that it's a pain as, it just takes such a long time and very often you do not get accepted for anything. However, I still think that if you see that there is a curator that you really want to connect to, or for example, the topic really fits to what you do, I still recommend applying for them, just because when I was, for example, a judge at different, open calls, I perhaps wasn't able to accept everyone, but it happened a few times that later on I invited people who I had to reject for the open call, or I bought their works, even though I rejected them because I had a specific guidance for who I can accept. So so I know that you might feel that you're losing a lot of time on it, but I still really recommend doing it. So there also, I would say, just think about perhaps where is your audience. If, for example, your work is about environmental issues, then very often, well, showing your work in a white cube space, that might be an option, but perhaps your audience are people who who are involved in the charity, for example, because they're cleaning beaches, or they have their space where they do some kind of conferences. So this is also where you can find people who actually care about what you do. So thank you everyone for listening. I hope that wasn't too long, and I'm pretty sure that I didn't talk about a lot of stuff that I wanted, but still, like 1.5 hours, that's I think it's good.
Thank you so much for a brilliant talk. Excellent. I just wanted to add something that I think is very important for artists, is to have really proper documentation of exhibitions, because it's kind of your legacy once in later age, to have this sort of your career, as well as having talk to a colleague who's a professional photographer, if they can help you out, and then exchange services or artworks. Also to have someone to write really good, well, how do you do that? But have someone to write texts for you, catalog texts.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very good way to sort of save for the rest of your career, basically.
I would definitely say so. I very often when I cannot pay a professional to either design my posters or pay for the photographic services, I do try to exchange it, whether that's then writing texts for them, for example, because when you're a photographer, you're good at photographing, but as you said, perhaps you might need someone to write the exhibition text. So think about what skills you do have. And I mean, also there is it's very difficult actually to learn about how actually an exhibition came to life. Like in the future, hopefully someone will be studying your exhibition. So even collecting the leaflets, or the documentation of how you actually put this exhibition together, I think that will be even helpful for you in the future to see where you how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, very good. We will have another session in a week's time, also on Zoom and also on YouTube. But are there any questions? People can either put them in the chat, the Q&A, or you can raise your hand if you want to ask it verbally. But we'll be a few more minutes here left. Um, what did I write? Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about your Instagram account and why you chose that name?
Wow. Okay, so it is actually connected to my research about authenticity and origins of creativity. So yeah, so I was thinking about yeah, like who's even whether there is an original artwork here. Like we're influenced by so many different things, like they come through our mind and then we end up, I guess, with not like a product, but yeah, like with a final piece. So and then I was also thinking about like all of these big artists who do have a lot of assistants, or even like asking my grandma to help me with a massive installation. So like who's the artist over there? So I just thought that we're all bullshitting in some way, and I just found that it was just funny to be professional in it. So it's nothing offensive, at least this is how I see it. Yeah, but like
Not to be confused with the amateurish art bullshitter, that the other account. There's a couple of questions here. What do you think of art fairs?
uh well, so personally, well, they're just spaces to sell the art, and I think currently, there is a massive commercialization of the art. So it's definitely not a space for like anything experimental. But I can see that there are more and more like anti-art fairs initiatives happening. So for example, in New York and then in London recently, there were quite a few art fairs that were happening in hotels. So it was quite interesting to see how you can actually put the pieces that you want to sell in a more accessible, I guess, place. So um, well, I go over there to meet with my friends and talk about and complain about the artwork. So that's a great space for that. But
There's also this in connection with like biennales, sometimes
yeah,
artists are offered like a booth, but they have to pay quite a high price, and I kind of find that, yeah, I try to
yeah,
persuade artists not to take that opportunity.
yeah, exactly. However, there are more and more smaller galleries who are trying to enter the art fairs, the bigger art fairs, and they're trying to show that you can actually bring something ambitious over
Yeah.
there, even if that might not be for sale, but perhaps that might actually help other artists to think, yeah, outside the box. Yeah.
There's a few more questions. When it comes to reaching out to galleries, publishers, and other institutions to see if they could be interested in your work, how would you go about it, and what kind of documentation, except from a website, would you add to this?
Yeah. To be fair, there's still this massive, not assumption, but galleries do like to discover artists. So what I would recommend is, like I do know some of the galleries who just received an email from an artist and they were like super interested in it, and they started working together afterwards. But I know that more often, like interacting with the gallery on Instagram was a better way, so that that they can later on pretend that they actually discovered you rather than the other way around. And then and unfortunately with the artwork, it's all about connections. So I would say, like trying to support others, going to well, I would say if you want to develop like closer relationships with curators or galleries, then not going to private views, but going to like visiting the exhibition when it's open and no one is over there, when you can actually have a normal conversation with the person. and asking them questions rather than like showing your work straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add in the chat the link to our YouTube channel. There's one more question here regarding websites. What is important information to have in the About section on your website, your homepage?
Yeah, well, so I would say different artists approach it differently, but to me, having as much information as I can is just important for me. So yeah, well, definitely having the bio and then having the statements so that I can just easily access all of the information. And then sometimes artists like just put a link to their CDs that you can download, or like you can just have everything, you know, like the exhibitions, the education, everything listed below. But yeah, just personally, I would say just as much information as you can give me.
Yeah. I will add also, this is kind of one of my show the English word expression, but on your email, on the signature, have your phone number there.
Yeah.
So it's easily to get in touch with you, because sometimes you have to go through your homepage to find your number. Sometimes it's not there. Also have a link to your website on your signature on your email as well, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe also Instagram, whatever. Yeah.
Definitely. And then yeah, always have the contact page, because like it's just sometimes it's just a nightmare to actually, you know, like look for it somewhere on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, we will see you in a week's time.
Yeah.
If you want to sign up, it's available on visp.no, or you can watch it on the same YouTube channel as you might have watched it today. Hang on. Okay, thanks, Sophie. Great talk.
But I will also say, if you have more questions, then just feel free to like send me on Instagram. Like it might take me a while, but like I'm always super happy to, you know, like just spend a few minutes to answer questions. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
That's the professional art bullshitter, if you're not already following her. Thank you so much. We'll see you all next week. Take care.
Amazing.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.